Hey, Sammy Thunder just put out a video about how we collect and the nature of people unloading collections. And I thought it was a fantastic video just about how people's approaches and perceptions have changed. And in doing so, in hearing that, I just wanted to share sort of what happened to me, or what happened with me as I re-entered the hobby. So I kind of got back into the hobby really seriously beginning of 2025. Again, I was a pretty heavy collector, but I got out basically when I went to college in the late 80s and really never picked it up. I dibbled and dabbled as I was putting a set together for the previous 3 years, but no real seriousness of it. When I entered back in, I probably had a collection of 10,000 cards. And yeah, I have like a set and some older cards, but I had a lot of cards from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, some stars, a ton of duplicates, a lot of duplicates of stars. How many 1977 Jim Rices do you need? I might have had 10, 11 of them. Jim Rice Hall of Famer, never going to be a ton of demand there. What I discovered was, so I'm in my mid 50s and I'm realizing that, boy, accumulating a large collection is really going to end up being as much, in my mind, it was just going to be how much of a liability is this going to be for my family if I decide to dive into it. And so the first thing I wanted to do was, I think we all have dreams of upgrading our collections, but I also, while I wanted to upgrade it, I just didn't want to have more and more and more cards. I realized, no, I would be way better off if I could just unload these cards. And way back in the 80s, unloading your collection, I still have a mindset that it's an all or nothing proposition. I'm going to, if I'm going to sell the collection, it's sort of like I'm either in or I'm out. And the idea of selling off a handful of cards here and there, it's just a paradigm shift that was an adjustment for me. So, but having come back into the hobby, the amount of channels we have now to get rid of cards. And I have cards of various sort of quality levels. I had a ton of stuff in that sort of pre-junk wax. A lot of that 1981, 1985 stuff, which, let's be real, there's only, for baseball, there's 10 valuable cards between those years, or cards that really have demand with collectors there. But had a lot of them, a lot of stars. There's some demand for it, but you're probably gonna have to sell it off as lots. And then you go back into the 70s and 60s, and there's different buyers for different sorts of cards you have. I have a big sale that I'm in the midst of. I'm on the back end of selling off a pretty sizable lot that I just pushed to Greg Morris, which helped facilitate some of the cards you've seen facilitate the purchase of some of the cards you've seen in the videos. The fact that you have all these channels, whether it's you're selling on eBay directly or you're moving it through a consignor that lives on eBay, like a Greg Morris, and I know we know others similar to him, or you have auction houses. And I think that's where a collector investor auction is really helpful, because I consigned off probably 10 cards, but I consigned off 10 cards, but they weren't high end. A few went for as few as $40 or $50, a couple went in the mid hundreds. But a lot of auction houses, your REAs and Heritages, they're either one ultra high grade stuff, which I don't have, but the cards I had were nice. But the fact that there are channels now, and let alone trade nights, that we can unload these cards, oh my God, it just makes it feel more real and more possible. And we see it, it's more concrete, we see it, we do it. There's not a lot of friction to it beyond the nature of selling cards through eBay or whatever. Post office in and of itself seems to have enough friction for everything. But just the nature of the different channels that you can move cards, And yes, the nature of my collection was, I think we all had aspirational dreams of having a better collection. But for many of us, the only way we can really do it is by moving some cards to buy others. And yes, less is more. I don't need multiples of the same card. Why I felt the need to do it back then, had no idea. Dumb kid, I was hoarding, right? So now I don't want to hoard. And I think the nature of us as collectors are, we can be finicky. Like, we know what we like. And some of us, I think the fact that we aren't limited to just a local card, I'm going to use like the 40-year-old reference. We're not limited to a couple of local card shops and, a handful of shows that we might be able to deal with. The whole world is at our fingertips. So we're now able to refine our tastes to what we really like. As I think Sammy said in his call, because we have the internet and we can do all this research, we can really figure out what we're into and at least test drive it. Even if we don't own a card, we can certainly test drive it, immerse ourselves in it, find out what's interesting via the internet, as compared to, the only way you learned that stuff before was you had to know people that had the card, you had to see it, feel, touch it, smell it, and all those limitations are off, and that's awesome as collectors. But with the nature of what's the sort of, if you have too many options, it can be a bit paralyzing. So yes, you can go down so many rabbit holes and get lost. It's challenging, but I think that's what's allowed those of us that might have collections, we just see and learn more, and our tastes refine. What's the old saying? As you mature, especially when it comes to eating food, you have a more sophisticated palate. And as you become a more seasoned collector, you just have more sophisticated tastes. Not saying we're any better, but I would sort of change the word sophisticated to distinct or unique or refined taste. And refined to us. Like, what I collect isn't built for everyone else. But that's what's so awesome about the combination of the hobby and the benefit of the internet, social media, especially YouTube, as a learning platform, as a learning channel of, boy, what is this? Looks pretty cool. And boy, I can go do a deep dive, and here we are. And I can tell you, just in the 18 months that I've gotten back, I don't know if I've necessarily changed lanes 3 or 4 times, but I've certainly refined myself to the point that there's cards I bought less than a year ago that I've already sold off, which I'm perfectly fine with. It's a learning process, and it's not like if I lost money, it wasn't a material amount of money. So, that's just the nature of what this whole platform plus the community does. It's super fun to get on and watch a lot of the lives and comment. One, just to hear the banter and the interplay, but also to learn. Like, not that we've seen a lot of them, but just to hear Blue Jacket 66. He is required viewing. Not that I'm probably ever going to be able to buy a card that he's referencing, though I'd love to get one of those art rookie Hank Aaron's, not the tops, but the cookie ones that he. I should know the name. The cookie one's pretty sweet, and I wouldn't mind picking that up one day. But that's just the nature of the platform that we're on, and so and I think that's what makes it great. I will tell you, the biggest thing I learned, I went from probably having 10,000 cards to probably 2,000 cards. And maybe I have 100, 150 slabs. And that is going to grow some, but it will probably shrink more as time goes by. Because as I'm still Orlando's saying, I want my card collection to be a museum of me. And it's my representation. Yeah, it's my representation for maybe people in the community, but it's my representation to my kids, my grandkids. Who was Jim at the Bank? Your dad, Pawpaw. Who was he? What did he like? Why did he like it? And why were these meaningful to him? And if anything, it's going to help them remember me. Now, hopefully I got another 20, 25 years of collecting under my belt, and this can be further refined. Not that I want to make it appreciably bigger, but I do want it to sort of be able to tell the story of me and my background and what I dug and what I found valuable. And so that's really why that, at least my collecting perspectives have changed. The beauty of it is, I think that refinement of the taste aspect, the refinement of the taste so that my lanes are more distinct, which probably defines me better than it was when I was just a generalist, though I would have never used that word when I was in my teens. Once I find lanes, I'm riding it really hard. Anyway, sorry for rambling a little bit, but I just saw Sammy's video. I thought it was on point, and I sort of wanted to share my perspective. Why is everyone changing? Frankly, because we're able to do so now easily with so much less friction than we ever were before, and we're able to go places we hadn't gone before so easily. So we're now doing it, and hopefully as this hobby evolves and the channel evolves, all that friction just continues to be removed, and we're able to explore, experience, dive into more. Anyway, talk soon. Bye-bye.